Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Expanding Across Borders Easily and Effectively. We want to thank you for joining us today, and with that, we'd also like to take a moment to introduce our panel before we dive into today's discussion. My name is Brendan Murray, and I handle all things content here at Akeneo PIM. I'm joined today by a pair of great panelists, Ulla Bergvall, Customer Service Director for Akeneo Customer Pierce, and Nick Panagopoulos, Vice President of Global Strategic Alliance for our partner, translations.com. A quick note before we get started, if there are any questions as we go along, please feel free to ask them via the questions function on GoToWebinar, and we'll try to get to as many as we can after we're done with the presentation. And so without further ado, I think we can dive into our discussion today. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ulla Bergvall to tell you a little bit more about the story of Pierce.
Thank you, Brendan. Hello, everybody. My name is Ulla, and I work for Pierce, and we are petrol heads in e-commerce. We have 3 online web shops. We have 24MX, which is for off-road, motocross, enduro. I think it's called dirt biking in the US. We also have a store called XL Moto, which is for on-road motorcycles. And we have a third one, which is the small niche one, which we only have in the north of Europe, which is a sled store. It's towards snowmobiles. We have a total of 35 local sites covering the 16 European markets, fully localized. On top of this, we have 2 sites for other EU countries, and we have 2 sites for customers outside of EU. These sites are all in 12 different languages, or all these 39 sites. So we cover them in 12 languages. We are a true pan-European e-com player. I'm trying to shift the slide here. We're a true pan-European player. We were founded in Stockholm, Sweden, but today we have offices in Poland and Spain, and we have a warehouse in Poland. We are currently for a little over 400 employees, and we have had quite a growth trajectory. In the last 3 years, we have tripled our sales from 40 million euros to about 120 million euros. And we are now in 2020 still growing, not as fast as before, but in spite of Corona and everything, we are still on a growth trajectory. We have our expansion. The company Pierce was founded in a garage by the 2 gentlemen to the right. They are Daniel Peterson and Stefan Rehn. They were both bike riders. They thought it was very difficult to find products for their bikes and for the sport that they were practicing. Hence, they decided, so it's funny, and founded in a garage 2006 to 2008. We don't know the exact date because they were playing around a little bit in the beginning. So we're a garage company, but they wanted to create a company where it was easy to purchase the things, tools and gears, everything for your bike. They also wanted a big assortment because for those of you who know the motor industry, there are many different bike models and the parts are bike specific and they change quite a lot. And they wanted a large assortment and they wanted affordable prices. Today, 10 plus years later, we have over 200,000 SKUs in 4 different categories. And the categories are, the first one is gear. Gear is helmets, protectors, boots, gloves, clothing, everything that you need to wear to be able to ride bikes, either on-road or off-road. Then we have parts, and the parts category is all the things that goes on your bike. We have sprockets, chains, air filters, brake pads, skid plates, brake wires, tires, etc. Electrical equipment could also be included here. Then we have accessories. These are things that are important for the sport, but doesn't go on you or yourself or on the bike. So in the photo there, you can see a bike stand that the bike sits on. It could be oils, cleansing equipment, tool, loading ramps, mats, and tents. I don't know if you know, but if you go to a motocross race, you need a mat and you need a tent. And then the last category we have is streetwear, and that's just general clothing that you wear that is moto influenced. So a lot of bike t-shirts and shirts and hoodies and jeans that are good for the sport. And to be able to handle the easy to purchase, we have a unique bike fitting system. With the large assortment that we have of parts, it's crucial to guide the customer in selecting the right items. And actually, in this case, photos and descriptions don't sell the products. So we have developed our own tool, which we call the Fit My Bike tool, in which you enter your bike model, make, and year. And then the tool on our site shows which parts fits your specific bike. And we actually have a unique database that we have developed manually over the last 10 years with more than 13 million different fitment combinations. And this is something we add on new things every day. So we do it daily. So hence we have a key. So we have some good keys to success. We have a good business model and a growth trajectory, but we also had some challenges with this. We've had a non-homogeneous data structure. I mentioned that we have 12 different, we're in 16 markets in Europe, and we actually support these in their local language. We have 12 different languages. And we had to move on from product information to product experience. And it was very important that we work with the time to market. We have new collections continuously, and we need to get those out to the customers as quickly as possible. So we are a fairly young company, and just like many other young companies, we had one system that catered to most of our needs, and we had to work around this. We had to do away with this home build system and replace it with distributed specialized tools and a new system architecture. And we wanted tools that could be optimized and that supported scalability. And when doing this, we faced challenges, of course. And our main challenges when starting this project was, number one, the complex products data structure. We don't have one type of product. We don't sell watches only, for example. We have electronical equipment, we have oils, we have parts, we have clothing, just different products that need different data. Then we had, before this started, we had a lot of product data and spreadsheets and uploading of the spreadsheets into the systems, etc. We had a lot of manual translations when we started translated everything from scratch. So this of course led to a lot of poor data quality because it's easy to get inconsistency, and of course we had a lot of inefficiency with them. And then we looked into what tools could support us, and we found the Akeneo PIM. And when we looked into it, the first thing that appealed to us was a super user-friendly interface, and it's not at all techy, and it's actually very easy to understand and very easy to use. You don't have to be an IT specialist when using it. So we like the easy to use approach on it. And of course, we also like that it's very business and workflow oriented rather than data driven. So we are very business and oriented, and this tool we felt was supporting that. It focuses on supporting value-driven needs. And then we looked at all the features, and the permissions features enables efficient product updates, important, very important to us. And then there's a business rules engine that reduces errors and inconsistencies in the product information. And this, of course, is super efficient for us. And then also we've discovered that it has quite an efficient photo management, and we have a lot of photos for our products because many customers purchase with their eyes. And we also liked that it supported the improved customer experience by enabling relevant content for the different products. It helped us support the different categories of products that we do have. So once we had a PIM in place, we had to look at translations. How do we handle the localization? And the first thing we of course, we looked into many different tools, but here we found a ready-to-use plugin to the Akeneo PIM with translations.com. Of course, that got us our eyes open and we started looking into it. And the benefits we found in the translations.com tool was that there's a translation memory of it. It's a glossary and it's phrases. And this is something that we need because we are working in a niche. Our customers are very specialized and they have their own moto lingo and very specific words. And to be honest, we don't always find translators who know the moto specific language, who are in the moto industry. But with this translations.com tool, with the glossary, we have the specific words in place, and then we only need the language specialists. And this was very important to us. I can give you an example here. About 2 years ago, before we implemented the tools, we looked through our product descriptions, and there's something called a skid plate, which is a little protector that you put beneath the engine of your motocross bike so you don't scratch it on the gravel. And on our French site, I could find at least 4 different wordings for the skid plate. It said sabot in some of the sites, or on some of the products. Sometimes it was called sabot protection. In some of the products, it was called sabot carter. And some, I think I saw carter de protection. So it was just very different and very consistent and all. And with the glossary, all of this is solved because we defined, a skid plate is a sabot protection, and this is what we will use all the time. But then there's also a machine translation engine. And this engine picks up the words and phrases that are not covered in the memory. So if there's another word that's not covered, it comes up in the engine, and it gives actually, instead of translating from the beginning, you get a text and you translate it word by word and phrase by phrase. Instead, we've moved into reviewing and the translation suggestion, and then editing that to our needs if needed. And the more we use this tool, the more the translation memory and glossary builds up, and we will have better quality as we move along. And we have now been using this tool not quite a year yet, but almost a year in the summer. And very soon we already see improvements in our efficiencies. And then we also have one more benefit that we found, that it has an easy distribution and collaboration around translations work packages. We have new collections coming out, we have campaigns in the pipelines, but we have priorities that change depending on sales and availability. And with the Akeneo translations.com solution, we can manage this in a very efficient way and reprioritizing when needed because of the work packages and the projects we are making. And we have also been able to eliminate manual work involved with the import and export, and it makes it, updates are supported easily, and it's quite efficient and safe. So the question is, now we've had Akeneo for about 2 years and we've had the translations.com for almost a year. What results have we had? Well, we now have a scalable system for product data that supports the growth that we are in. We have a tool that supports efficient workflows and efficient work distribution. When it comes to the product data management, we've increased the productivity by 100% at least. We work in a much more efficient and more business-oriented way. And when it comes to the translations, we have improved time to market immensely by having more efficient translations. And we have improved the translation quality and the workflows in-house. And when I last checked with our responsible manager for the translations, she says we have increased productivity about 40%. And we actually think we can speed this up a little bit more once we build the translations glossary. And then we have a much more efficient digital asset and product data management. So basically, in the last 2 years, we've moved into having a scalable system that supports growth and that supports new development that we are looking at, because we are still on the growth trajectory and we're still growing, and we're getting new products and new categories and new features all the time. But we feel that we have a very good base to work from. So this is pretty much what I wanted to share. If you have any questions, please, I think we have the Q&A at the end that you can ask some questions.
Great, thank you very much, Ulla. That was very helpful. So now we can dive a little bit into the mechanics behind how Akeneo and how translations.com can help with the processes of going cross-border like Ulla's been talking about. And as Ulla kind of alluded to, and as you may have heard elsewhere, the rewards for succeeding across borders can be great. More than 715 million consumers around the globe made a cross-border purchase last year, spending $676 billion, and these figures are slated to continue to rise in the coming years. It's supposed to reach 943 million cross-border consumers, spending nearly $1 trillion by 2020. But unfortunately, and of course, capitalizing on this valuable opportunity is often easier said than done. As you can see with some of the challenges that Ulla was talking about that Pierce has suffered. First of all, consumer expectations are higher than ever before, and most shoppers will only make a cross-border purchase if the information is presented in the language and units of measurement that they're used to. But that's not all. You need to go past just simple translation and conversion, and you need to make sure you're localizing to conform to the norms and the laws and the trends in your new market. So that means making sure images conform to local norms and trends, that products and packaging comply with local regulations and legislation, and that your product descriptions and other content speak to the experiences of consumers. And it really means translating and localizing all of your content for each and every market you sell in. So for example, if you're selling in, let's just say 16 countries around the world, it means that you have to have 16 different locales you need to contextualize and localize information for, 16 sets of laws and regulations you need to be complying with, and norms you need to be adhering to. So adding it all up can make it seem like a real challenge, and maybe even make it seem as though selling across borders is more trouble than it's worth. But that's where solutions like Akeneo PIM can help you expand to new territory with ease. With PIM, or product information management, for those that don't know what we're talking about, you can much more easily localize and contextualize your information in order to sell across borders. PIM is a productivity solution that enables your enterprise to more effectively manage product data. It makes it easier than ever to manage your data from all of your different sources and process it to create a picture-perfect product experience easily and efficiently for each market you sell in. Akeneo PIM helps your team expand to new locales easily and efficiently by helping you manage product information at scale using features like bulk actions and mass edit capabilities to allow your team to update large amounts of product data with just the click of a button. Get your products to new markets more quickly by optimizing workflows and processes associated with collecting, enriching, and distributing your product catalog, and improve conversion return rates when selling abroad by providing a better product experience for your customers no matter where they're buying from. Plus, with tools like our locale-specific attribute values, validation workflows, and much more, you can ensure that you are staying in compliance with any legal or regulatory requirements in any of your new markets. And you don't just have to take our word for it. You obviously heard from Ulla about the great results that you can get from Akeneo PIM, but you can also hear from a lot of our other customers about how Akeneo PIM can help you take control of your product experience and improve your product data. Our customers tell us that Akeneo helps accelerate time to market, boost productivity, reduce errors, and decrease the amount of returns, and as well, of course, ease expansion efforts. Our customers like Heathrow Airport, Kurt Geiger, GSM 55, Legale, and Midland Scientific tell us these improved scientific workflows also result in improved product experiences, which then lead to increased conversions and decreased returns. Add it all up, and that results in increased revenue. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Nick at translations.com to tell us a little bit more about how they help with cross-border sales.
Thanks, Brendan, and thanks, Ula, as well. I really appreciate you speaking today and sharing your story with the audience. Translations.com, our mission is to help companies with going global. And so we have a variety of services and solutions to help enable that, whether it's machine translation, human translation, customer service from call centers across the globe that we have, or our virtual multimedia services. We cover the gambit as it relates to helping companies going global. That includes translating content that's internal and external. If we go to the next slide here, what you can see is an overview of our technology global link. So on the one hand, I just spoke about our services. On the other, you have the technology, and the technology is a really fundamental part to scaling how you go across borders. And in Ula's example, it was actually really fundamentally important to their business being able to go global. Part of what it allowed then was, as you can see in the diagram, there's a term manager on the right-hand side. That's where we put all of the glossary terms that we defined with Ula and her team. The AI portal is where there's machine translation being pulled in. There's also this concept of the TM server, or translation memory server. And I'll talk to you about that in just a moment, because that was really important to the success of Ula's program, and really the success of any customer using these tools. Beyond all of that, of course, is the integration point. And that is what helps streamline that process and eliminate the need for manual imports and exports, or possibly even involving IT in the process. So if we go on to the next slide, I'll explain translation memory a little bit better for you, in case it's new to some of you. So we put a couple of examples in here directly from Ula's website. The idea is that it's a smart database that learns as more and more content is processed for a customer. And so the idea is that the translations are done by a human, they're reviewed by a human, they're stored into the system, and the system adds metadata to every sentence, every segment that's been translated. And so that allows us to determine if, in context, the sentence is an exact match or a fuzzy match. And you can see in the examples, one of the brands that this business is offering on their websites is using this text here at the bottom. You can see it on the left-hand side. Smooth, comfortable, stylish cross gloves with an artificial leather palm. You know, what else could you want from a cross glove? And this phrase, as I started to look, appeared across this brand's multiple products. And it was interesting, you know, in looking at the website, Pierce has several different brands and pulls in content from different suppliers and generates much of their own content. And so translating that phrase using translation memory, using Global Link, what you're able to do is store it, centralize it, and then set it up so that it can be reused in every single place where it's displayed on the site. And that's a pretty simple, fundamental thing that you need to do with product data, because so much of it is repeated across your SKUs. On top of it, though, you have fuzzy match text. And so I looked at a pair of pants from the same supplier, and they had a couple of different listings for the pants. In one, they were describing them as made of 600 denier polyester, and then durable in parentheses. And then in another place, it was the same part of the sentence that's in white with that different bit added to the end to explain that it's durable. Now, in some cases, right, what our clients do is they use these tools to say, hey, maybe we need to update some of our English so it's more consistent. In other cases, they prefer to keep it out there the way it is. And what's great about this is with these tools, you can actually reuse the parts of the sentence that are the same so that a translator is only then touching the delta, the bits that have changed. So this translation memory is really where a very large chunk of the savings comes from in translation. And it also pulls in the terminology that Ulla had said they wanted to define up front, those glossary terms, and hooks into our terminology manager, which is a part of the stack. So this is where a lot of the magic happens. If we go to the next slide, then I can just kind of summarize Global Link at a high level. It enables you to reduce your time to market with your product content. It also, because so much of the content can be reused from translation memory, because you can incorporate in the AI, the machine translation, you can substantially reduce the costs on your translations, and then have greater quality and consistency of that content. And so this is the main value behind the technology, and really how Ulla is deriving those benefits that she mentioned earlier. So that's the majority of what I had to cover. Before we wrap, though, I did want to just briefly tell you about translations.com. On the next slide here, just in case you haven't heard of us before, we are the largest company in the translations industry, $760 million company. And so we have offices across the globe. We're local to wherever you are. We have teams, we have production groups, we have linguists that know your language, know the terminology, and are capable of supporting you in any market. And this is what's made this partnership so strong is we are the leader of our space, and Akeneo is a rising leader in their space, and together we're able to provide this solution that helps our customers. So that's it from my piece. I think I'll pass it back to Brendan now for any questions that might have come up.
Great, thank you very much, Nick. I think we do have time for a couple questions. One, it looks like the first one is for Ulla. So Ulla, thanks for sharing some of your insights with us. It looks like we're gonna call on you again here. Can you tell us maybe one or two of the most important tips that you'd have for someone that is looking to expand across borders and try to localize their product information?
Wow. Yeah, just well, that was a super difficult question. What you need to have good content. You need to have, so either you localize or you don't. And if you localize, you need to go all the way, I would say, because doing some kind of hashed measure, having Google translations, that makes it worse. So I would say if you're going to localize, do it properly. And we have been doing it properly at Pierce with local people. I mean, we have had native speakers doing the translations, but that was not scalable. So if you want to localize, go ahead and do it. And then if you need to scale like we did, then you need a proper tool for it.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you very much. Sorry to stump you with that question a little bit. Another one coming in looks like it's more pointed towards Akeneo, so I can handle this one. It says, what are some of the other steps outside of just translation that you need to do to localize your information? We talked a little bit about that before, but I would say the most important thing is not just, as the question says, go to translation, but also make sure you're localizing. So if there are things like regulations or legislation you need to comply with, make sure you're doing that. But even kind of on a more subtle basis, make sure you're applying to the right norms and making sure you're speaking to the experiences of people you work with. So, for example, if you're selling in the Nordic countries, you might not want to be advertising a sunny beach scene. And if you're selling down in the Caribbean or somewhere warm, you're not going to want to lead with snow and about how it helps with cold necessarily. So I think it's about just understanding the market and making sure you're speaking to their experiences and making sure that it sounds like they're buying from someone who knows and understands what they're looking for. And with that, I think we are just about out of time, and that's going to wrap up the questions we have here. So I want to thank you all on behalf of myself. Once again, I'm Brendan Murray from Akeneo, and Ula Bergvall from Pierce, and Nick Panagopoulos from translations.com. Thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks a lot.